Welcome to our daily Forex market analysis, and this is for trading on December the 18th, 2019. Just a quick disclaimer here. This is for educational purposes only. Trading is a risky business, so please be careful. With your trading here. All right, as usual, we'll start off by taking a look at our calendar. So in terms of the data here, the data out of UK wasn't good, and we did see pound drop, and the data out of the US was overall positive here, and we have seen US actually do well. And then going into Wednesday here, we have a few key pieces of data coming out, so we do need to pay attention. We have ECB president speaking here. Now, ECB, if the comments, again, around the monetary policy are dovish, if they're negative, that's likely to have a negative impact on the markets, so keep an eye on that. But if they basically, there isn't anything new, and then basically not expecting much in terms of volatility out of it. The important data here that we have for pound here for UK is the CPI numbers. So this is the inflation number here. So inflation number is important because it's one of the key numbers that we see our central banks track. So CPI numbers are very important. So this is a yearly number as well. So we see that we are expecting a bit of a drop. So now if the number comes in below the expected number here, we're likely to see a negative impact on British pound. We also have a final yearly CPI number from Eurozone here as well. Same thing here. If the number comes in below expectation, that will have a negative impact on the euro. And then from Canada, we have the CPI monthly number as well as the CPI yearly number here. And same thing goes, if there's a drop here, then we are likely to see a negative impact on the Canadian dollar. Now, on the other hand, if any of these CPI numbers do go up, that will have a positive impact on the currency. So keep that in mind. Not much in terms of news out of the US. We do have FOMC member Evans speaking. So here, all we need to pay attention to is any kind of comments in regards to the monetary policy. So if he talks about when the Fed may be cutting rate, or if the Fed is ready to cut rate, that type of comments can drive the price down. So just keep an eye on it. In the Asian session here, we do have tons of data coming out here. We have GDP numbers for New Zealand. The numbers for New Zealand have been coming out positive. So if the number is positive, it's likely to push New Zealand dollar up. For Australia here, the monetary policy statement yesterday was not very good. So if the employment numbers are not good, then that will have a further negative impact on Australian dollar, and we could see Australian dollar drop. And for Japan here, we have monetary policy statement. So at this point, Bank of Japan may not actually make any changes. However, if they do start talking about easing the monetary policy, so any comments in regards to easing the monetary policy or being concerned about the economy or overall conditions, economic conditions around the world, any of those comments will prove to be negative for Japanese yen, which means yen crosses could go up as a result. So keep an eye on that. But other than that, we are good. So let's go on to our charts here. Okay, so we'll start off with our euro dollar here as usual. With euro dollar, price did go higher into the next support and resistance level here at 1.1180. But then we have an indecision candle here. So today's candle is neutral. And now, as long as price stays below 1.1160, or we could even get a little bit more of a pullback here, basically looking for price to go down. So as we can see, price has made a lower high here. And if it stays below this pullback level here, then we could see it drop. Now, sometimes it can go and retest the high as well, but I am looking for price to drop here. So the bias here is neutral, but I am looking for price to come back towards the bottom of the range. It's been trading in this range for a number of days now, so it hasn't really been able to break higher. And so I'm looking for price to move in the opposite direction, which is to drop. And the target here is 1.1120, and the second target is 1.1070. So bias here is neutral to bearish for euro dollar. Pound dollar here, this one we were looking for a drop yesterday, a nice big drop here. Price is into support, so do keep that in mind. We could get a pullback here. So if price does not drop below 1.3120, this one could go back up potentially like that. So keep an eye on the support level here at 1.3100. Now, once it does drop, then I will look for a further move to the downside. First target would be 1.3020, and then this one could come all the way down. But at this point, the caution would be this 1.3120. So this one could pull back all the way into 1.3220 and then make that move lower. So I would just say be cautious with this one, because we have seen a big drop. Now, there's nothing to say that it couldn't continue, because obviously it continued all the way up here. Even after a big move up, it just continued on. So we could see similar reaction here, but just be mindful of the support. Now, one of the reasons that pound is dropping is because of Prime Minister Johnson's decision to actually or not decision, but he talked about bringing in a legislation that will cap the timeline for Brexit. So there would be no further extensions, which means if there's no deal, then we're basically looking at no deal Brexit. So that's what's been pushing the pound lower. If those kind of comments continue, or that's what market is basically looking at, then we are looking for a further drop here. So overall, my bias is bearish. My target is 1.3020, and then second target here would be 1.2970. So bearish bias for pound dollar. Aussie dollar here, this one did break through the support here. We got that bearish move. Now looking for a further move to the downside, looking for this move to get filled here. So target here is 0.6820. For this one, just watch out for a pullback. We could get a pullback into 0.6870 level, this one here, and then a further drop. So watch out for that, but bias is bearish. Target is 0.6800. New Zealand dollar, this one as well, bias is bearish, looking for price to drop further here. So in this case, price has broken through the support, and now basically I am looking for price to drop further. Target here is 0.6520. So bearish bias here for New Zealand dollar as well. So Aussie is looking weak as well as New Zealand. Okay, next one here, dollar CAD. Dollar CAD went up, and now we do have a pin bar here. So this one is looking neutral at the moment. At this point, what I would look for is a pullback into 1.3170, or this one could go all the way into the high as well. If it stays below, this one could drop. So this one is making lower highs here, and if it makes another lower high, if it stays below 1.3170, then we could see a drop towards 1.3120. But just be mindful of this. Australian dollar and dollar CAD, or New Zealand dollar and dollar CAD, tend to move in the opposite directions. So if Aussie and New Zealand are dropping, dollar CAD tends to go up. So just keep that in mind. But bias here is bearish, and target is 1.3120. Let's take a look at commodities here. Silver. Silver is still holding below that resistance of 17.10. We do have a small bearish candle here, and this looks like a rounded formation, so it looks like this one could drop. So bias is bearish here, looking for it to drop towards 16.50. So bearish bias for silver. Gold here. Gold has been holding below this resistance level at 1483, holding below this 1480 mark. So as long as it keeps holding below this mark, we are likely to see a drop back towards the bottom of the range into 1454. So at this point, the bias is more neutral because these candles are not very strong. But as long as it stays below 1480, I am looking for that move lower into 1454. Oil here, oil has been bullish. It is moving higher here. We do have a large pin here, but overall bias still remains bullish. So next target here, so yesterday we were looking for 61. It almost got into that level. So looking for a further move higher into 61 will be the first target, and potentially 61.50, the second target. And a bias here is bullish for oil. Copper here, copper seems to be struggling with this resistance at 2.79. We do have a pin here. So looking for price to drop further, so we could get a pullback here and then a drop. So bias here is bearish for copper, and potential pullback into 2.78, and then looking for a drop. Target is 2.72. So bearish bias for copper. Bitcoin here, Bitcoin into our target here that we were looking for yesterday, 6,500. So bias still remains bearish. Now we are into support because this is where price had bounced off. So overall though, price seems to be gaining momentum. So this one can break through the support. So keep an eye on 6,500 level. And once we see a break through that, 6160 is the next target to the downside. So bias is bearish for Bitcoin. S&P 500, this one seems to be turning now. We had talked about all the US and China phase one trade deal sort of controversy there. We have not seen any kind of real kind of gist of what's included in that. And some of the comments that have come out have been contradictory in nature between US and China. So we just need to keep an eye on it. Any positive comments can push the market up further. At this point though, looks like we could see a drop here. So keep an eye on that. As long as price stays below 3,200, I will look for a move lower here into 3150. So bias here is bearish for S&P 500. Nasdaq here, Nasdaq looks neutral here. So we could see a pullback right into the high of the day and then potentially a drop here. Bias is neutral though, but should it break through the high, this one could continue higher. So neutral bias for now, but this one could drop into 85.20 would be the first target. And then we have 84.50 as the second target here. But if it breaks through the high, this one could continue higher. Dow here, Dow Jones is still holding below the resistance here. We do have a bullish candle close. The concern would be that this is still trading in a range. So if price goes into the high, but then holds below, I will look for a move towards the bottom of this range back into 28,000. So there is slight bullish bias here, but I would be extremely cautious here because I will look for a move back down towards the bottom of the range into 28,000. DAX here, DAX is back into our range. So bias here is bearish. I would look for this type of a move towards the bottom of the range here towards 13,000. So bias is bearish for DAX. FTSE here, FTSE wasn't able to push through. We have a neutral candle close here. So with this one here, what I would look for is a reaction. So if it stays below 75.50, I'm looking for a drop. So we're looking for a reaction at the high. And as long as it stays below 75.50, I will look for that drop. So bias is neutral, and watch out for a move lower. 74.30 is the target. Nikkei here. Nikkei hasn't really done much. We do have some bearishness in the candle here, so looking for price to drop further. Target is 23,800 as the first target, and should it go below that level, we're looking at 23,600. So overall here, bias is bearish for Nikkei as well. All right, so that's it for today. Just keep in mind, we do have low liquidity conditions because of holidays. Always keep that in mind, which means market can be more volatile than usual during this time. All right, so have a great trading day, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.